Greetings and salutations to all you folks out there. We are jumping into the Equilibrium tournament today. This is a 1 versus 1 tournament fighting over a little bit of a prize pool and the balanced and equilibrium avatar, which is varying levels of honesty depending on who you ask. But today we're going to be taking a look at the run-up for this tournament. First map is Loki. This is a difficult one to play on, at least for me, but we can hopefully break down what these guys are doing. The matchup is between Obi-Wan Kenobi over on the left-hand side, red wearing with the UEF faction, and then we've got Clinch as Seraphim in turquoise on the right-hand side. And I suppose that I should probably get my thoughts in order, seeing as we are beginning this thing for realsies. Clinch is going for first land, second air, which is pretty typical on this map. 6 power generators built up, which you may find weird since that is not technically enough to run an early air factory, but you will notice that there is a attack move order queued to the bottom right hand side that will pick up tree clumps over that away, boosting up the early game power and mass income, of course, and that'll let that air build take place with nary a hitch. So if we take a look at the other side, I'm pretty positive that the same thing will be happening over there. Only, no, I don't think it is. Obi-Wan Kenobi may actually be going for a second land factory. I did not see what the queue was. We got 126 to 36. No, it is second air. He just has an inordinate amount of power place. Same 2 engineers over to that side, getting that attack move order down. Those will suck up tree clumps until they are not needed any longer, and then they shall go get the mass extractors and hydro power plant up that away. You'll also notice that there is a manual reclaim order queued across the front end. Those are some critical rocks in the early build. You do have to get those if you hope to have a competitive build. And then over to the northern expansion, there's quite a bit more reclaim, some civilian buildings to grab along with vehicles, and then 3 mass extractors. So you're going to have to get a base of operations up that away in order to secure this entire plateau. And then the same thing goes for the south side. Now, something that does need to be stated is that this is a Seraphim commander. That means that hover artillery can move across the lake on the backside edge. UEF is not going to have that advantage. So if the Seraphim commander is able to get over to this edge, that should bring a huge benefit in keeping units suppressed on this side. They'll have to build up in the base and travel all the way around on the land edge, or come from factories that are built on this northern side. Or maybe, I don't know, we'll see something else happen. I am not terribly familiar with the meta on this map because it does seem to shift on some occasions, but we shall happily see what these guys do and then hopefully learn a little bit from it, since both of these players are higher ranked than I. Looks like Clinch is going to be finishing out his build with 3 additional land factories, total of 4, and he's going to go for some power generator configurations that look like they should contain an air factory later on, but may not. We'll just have to see how that goes. Okay, first air scout is out. There is a bomber out in front of that. Interceptor didn't make it over to Clinch's base, but Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to miss out on the bomber that is now going to head for this engineer on this side of the map. Interceptor is in place to catch that, but yes, there it is with the target. Bomb is going to drop, but engineer dodges quite skillfully, and the bomber falls out of the sky with nary a kill to its name. So that was a bit of a fail on the front end there for Clinch, but hopefully he can make up for that with a little bit of play later on. We do have manual reclaim out on some tree clumps, and then moving on to the boulder that is worth 138 mass right up there. And we do have a Tham that is sent out to guard that engineer from any hapless mech marines or aggressive units that might come up that way from Reds. In the center of the map, we do have some indestructible walls. You cannot reclaim them, you cannot destroy them. It restricts pathfinding to this single narrow gap in the center, and as such, a lot of times the middle gets ignored on this map, but we do have a single Tham threading through that might be able to make it back into the base, but I think that has been seen by a couple of air units that have winged overhead, and they are now going to be in pursuit. We've got a total of 7 land factories queued for Obi-Wan Kenobi, along with an 8th on the outside edge of the base. that is going to far outstrip the production from Clinch. So Clinch may run into a small issue in the middle portion of this game as he is swarmed by loads of T1 tanks coming from those factories that he cannot hope to match in numbers. Clinch getting an additional land factory down on the front end. He does have an attack move order placed for that engineer, which is going to drag all the way across the front end, getting all these rocks. I'm not sure how much is in each of those clumps. We've got 10 mass in that. They might be 5 per rock, with the clumps being of more value, but we'll just check and see how much these guys have in actual reclaim in just a few mementos. That dam on the front edge was a good idea, and it would have been successful had there only been one tank or maybe a couple of mech marines, but posed versus 2 strikers, it does not have much of a chance. We've got response units coming in from Clinch over from the right. The engineer was able to make it out to safety, pulled back just in the nick of time. We do have a Selen engaging with the tank. Again, not much hope of a success there. The pathfinding on Loki is a bit of an interesting thing. You've got a slope here and a slope here, then a slope right across the front edge with, I don't think, enough room. No, there is not a pathfinding solution around the front edge of that cliff. So in order to get here, you either have to go through the wall around this way, you have to go around across the plateau up here, or you have to thread across all of the passageways to the west. So it ends up being a little bit convoluted when you're looking at pathing, but again, those hover artillery from Seraphim do help quite a significant amount when you're trying to get your troops from one edge to the other. Cinch is now moving his ACU down. That's going to put him in place to control the southern expansion quite thoroughly indeed, while it looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi is focusing on the north. He has walked his ACU across the water into the 4 mass extractor expansion on the opposing edge, and it doesn't look like he has a move order placed out of there. So either he hasn't queued up far enough in advance for us to see what his plan is, or he is intending to leave his ACU there in the relatively protected area that is. You can take a dip into the water with your ACU, although looking at how shallow that is, I don't know that you can get your ACU completely submerged. You might still be susceptible to bombers. In fact, I think you will be. But it does afford some protection to pursuing land units. And then you've also got it in a somewhat remote location, hopefully out of the way of prying eyes from the opposing faction. Let's see, still on 5 land factories over to this side with no plans for additional factories laid down as of yet. We do have a striker waiting on the other shore to catch this poor helpless engineer as it makes the crossing of the pond on that side. I do like that there's an air engagement happening here. That means that we're going to see a strong air win for Obi-Wan, and he may be able to use airspace to his advantage now that he holds control. That is a single air factory, but it is assisted by a total of 4 engineers. That's going to basically double the production, and on the northern edge we have an air factory assisted by 1 engineer. Whether that is a power deficit or what that's restricting that flow of air, I know not. We shall, let's see. I think we're at a calm enough portion. Let me see if I can remember my console commands. We're going to go set focus army 1, I think. There we go. Clinch running at 253 power. That is a rather hefty overflow of power. He has drastically overbuilt his P-gens, underbuilt his land factories, and is not taking advantage of any kind of ACU upgrade or anything else that would be to his benefit to use all of those extra power generators. That is a critical mistake that I am guilty of quite often indeed. I think set focus army 0 is going to be the other side, where we're seeing a bit of okay, so we've got double energy storage fluctuating depending on what is going on between minus 93 and plus 150, floating squarely in the center of the storage, and the same thing goes for mass, although we are seeing a bit of a dip into the negatory at the moment. I'm not sure. Yes, okay, so that is a T2 air factory upgrade going down. He's saved up what he needed for that and is immediately dropping it with only a slight stall towards the tail end. So this is a much better sign of eco management than we saw on the other. That does look like a T2 land factory taking place though. So if Mobile Flak is able to move out into the area, we might see Clinch survive versus the inevitable flow of gunships out of that T2 air factory. Looks like Obi-Wan is going to be able to easily repel this force coming in on his expansion. Not only did he have more tanks, but he also had his ACU in place for the denial. So those units are going to have to retreat beyond the edge of the plateau, leaving Obi-Wan with an even more overwhelming number of land units as opposed to what Clinch has in his possession. We do have Ilship production online. I don't know how successful that is going to be, though, because he simply does not have enough build power on land. There's an air scout across that is going to give good intel on exactly what is taking place in that base. That is going to be Clinch starting in on the gun upgrade, which is not really going to give him a whole lot of benefit, seeing as he is rather alone on the southern edge of the map and has not been able to take his expansion as of yet. This is looking like a bit of a stomp. The warm-up game of the day is not going very well for Clinch. Oh my. And gunships, as predicted, we got a T2 engineer out that is able to drop a T2 PGen. The gunship will arise from the factory, take advantage of this marvelous bit of air control that Red has a hold of, and that will be able to raid all over the place, taking out mass extractors, build power, intel, engineers, and all of those things that you so desperately need to keep your game on the rails. There is a T2 mass extractor in the center of that for a little bit of adjacency bonus, so I'd like to see that. But I don't know that that is going to be enough to win in the game. A single mass extractor with adjacency bonus is not that much of a weight to swing. We do have another T2 mass extractor upgrade underway. It looks like we've got no T2 mexes complete as of yet, but one at 94% on the red portion of the map. But Red is going to be far superior in eco nonetheless, due to the fact that he does have all of the mass extractors on his side of the map under his control, and the southern side obviously is not looking very turquoise. So that is going to be the end of the gun upgrade on Clinch, and the UEF commander is also jumping on that bandwagon, getting that gun upgrade with the excess power that I'm sure he has now that he has a T2 power generator online. Taking a look at the center of the map, we do have a little bit of a tank incursion, a couple of bombers in the air trying to knock that before it's able to make it into the base. There are no tanks whatsoever in this expansion. Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be able to wrest that from the control of Clinch quite easily indeed, as the forces struggle to make it there in time to save at least a couple of the mass extractors. And in a perfect maneuver, Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to move his T1 in on the northern edge. Oh no, he is going to stall momentarily, perhaps to savor his inevitable victory. We may never know. There it comes. He is going to sweep those two mass extractors from existence and then move into the core base. I wonder if this was a plan to go for a T3 land rush. I don't know. It was definitely a setup for T2 land, but you can't get enough production of that few engineers and hope to compete against the T1 spam that we saw coming from the other side. Let's actually take a look at what the intel looks like. We've got Set Focus Army 2-1 on this edge. So we know that there's a couple of T2 mass extractors now on that side. Does not know that there is a T2 air factory. Does not know how many land factories his opponent has. The intel is very poor indeed from Clinch's perspective. And I think that is going to end up murdering him to death, because I don't see how he can hope to overcome what we know Obi-Wan has. That's going to be the 6th gunship coming out of the factory. The 7 factories still pumping out units. One of them now is a T2 HQ, building the first striker to hit the field. And that is, I think, going to be GG. We just don't know yet how long it will take Obi-Wan to kill his opponent. I'm gonna go set focus back to the main grouping, and we shall see how this proceeds. The Brink bot is dead, apparently. Oh my. I will have to take a look at that in between the games. We shall see what I can do. Okay. Clinch is now up on the front line. He's going to get swarmed by T2 gunships. That's going to force the ACU into the water, but there is nothing left with which to deny that push. I would not be surprised at all if Clinch were to control K at this point, because those gunships are simply going to move across the map, desecrating everything in their path, including the homelands, and then there will be nothing left that Clinch can fight back with. He is approximately 8,000 points behind, which is usually not a fantastic indicator of how things are going, but when you do consider the fact that the score is heavily weighted by air units, and we're looking at how this air game is going, it does seem to be an accurate representation of what is going on. That brave little T1 artillery moving around the back there, hoping to get into build power. That's going to be an interesting thing to have happen, but the torpedo bomber is going to see what is going on over that away, and now the ACU is under fire from torpedo bombers. Got T1 mobile anti-air being pumped out of the factory at a furious speed, but once you get that many gunships in one place, it is simply too much HP for T1 anti-air to chew through before it meets its demise. Gotta pick off those engineers though, because they will be able to build the anti-air that might succeed in taking down your gunship. Below 6,000 HP on the ACU. Interceptors coming down from the north, hoping to knock out these gunships before they do too much damage and before the interceptors from red can respond. But I think it is all for naught as the ACU continues to take blows from the torpedo bombers. Now 5 in number, 6 and number 7 I'm sure is building. Yes, just pounding away on that ACU. And T2 tanks moving into intercept as it struggles to come out of the water. That is going to be all she wrote. Obi-Wan Kenobi taking the win in the first round of this tournament. And that is that. I think 2 things. Clinch failed spectacularly in intel gathering, which I can't really fault him for, as I do exactly the same thing. And since he did not have intel, he did not match the production of his opponent. If you see your opponent has double the amount of land factories that you do, you will know that you have a problem incoming. It may not be right now, but it will definitely be soon. Congrats to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He advances to round 2. We're going to bail on this game and see what the next round holds for us. That is going to wrap everything up for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, feel free to drop a like and share it with someone. If you want to support the channel, catch the streams, or join the Discord, check out the links in the description. Thank you all for being at least partially insane, and I will see you in the next one.